Hello students, welcome to this Frames 5 video tutorial on the butterfly part 2. Please open Frames 5 from your application screen and please open the file that we created in tutorial 1 called the butterfly. So let's review what we did, what we accomplished in tutorial 1. We had a butterfly enter the frame from the left hand side, we had it fly upwards or downwards, and then change direction again. So an important tool for animators is to always watch what you've done in your animation. So in the timeline at the bottom, click on frame 1. You may have to use the gray slider at the very bottom of your frame, depending on how many frames you've created. So make sure you use that slider to push all the way to the left, and then click on frame 1. Then from the top toolbar, click on the play button. So watch how your butterfly flies up and down towards the right, changes direction, moves backwards, and then changes direction again. And I think that's as far as we got in tutorial 1. Okay, if you've watched your animation, you should now be on the final frame in your timeline. So what we did is we flipped the butterfly so that now it's facing to the right. So let's make sure we deselect and let's duplicate. Okay, so now what I want you to do is I want you to continue the pattern of moving the butterfly slightly to the right and slightly up or down and create a nice natural flight path for this butterfly. Make sure you deselect after you move it and then duplicate. So I'm going to have my butterfly fly downwards. Try to keep the distance that you move the butterfly fairly consistent. So I'm going to continue having my butterfly fly pretty low towards the bottom half of the screen. Again, you can have your butterfly fly upwards, you can have it fly up and down. It's completely up to you. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my butterfly move kind of in a straight line, like horizontal to the ground, before I start moving and changing the direction to go upwards again. You just don't want the butterfly to move in a straight horizontal line across because a butterfly would almost never do that. Okay. So as you can see, I am getting close to the right edge of the frame. I want to continue the animation so that the butterfly looks like it's exiting the frame on the right. So I'm going to continue my motion for a few more frames until I just see the end of the butterfly's tail. Okay? All right. So let's turn off the onion skin for a moment. So you can either turn it off in the right-hand panel here by clicking and checking off the check mark, or I can go up to the View menu and turn it off here. Okay? All right, so let's save first. In the top left-hand corner, click on the Save button. And then let's use the slider at the bottom of your frame. Go all the way back to frame 1. Click on frame 1, and then hit play. So what you're looking for as the animator is you're looking for a nice smooth motion. Okay, nothing looks too erratic, or sudden. That's probably the word I want to say is it doesn't look too sudden. It flows. Okay. So as you're watching that animation, you might be thinking, well, it actually doesn't look very smooth because it's moving very slowly. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to adjust that now. So using the slider, go all the way back to frame 1. Click on frame 1 in your timeline at the bottom, and then use your slider and go all the way to the right. Hold the Shift key down in the bottom left-hand corner of your keyboard, the Shift key, and then click on the last frame. Now what you'll notice is all of the frames have been highlighted. So that trick, we clicked on the first frame, we held Shift key down, and then we clicked on the last frame. What that does is it highlights everything in between the first thing you clicked and the last thing you clicked. That's a Windows trick. That's not really a Frames 5 trick. All right, in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the duration panel here, or the duration box. Duration means how long each slide plays for. Right now, it's set at a default of 0.5 seconds. So what I want to do, or what I want you to do is I want you to highlight 0.5, and I want you to type right over top of it 0.3. Okay, then hit enter. Now I want you to hit play. And I hope you'll notice that the butterfly is moving much faster now, much more realistically. So as an animator, you always have to be playing around with the timing of your frames. All right, so let's try one more adjustment. So let's do the same thing. Let's use the slider, click on frame 1, use the slider and go all the way to the end, hold the shift key down and click on the last frame. All right, so we tried 0.3. Now I want you to highlight 0.3 and type over top 0.2 and hit enter. Then I want you to hit play. So it's these subtle adjustments that you can make. Okay, you can choose, do you like the 0.2 setting better or do you like the 0.3 setting better? If you're going to change it to 0.3, you should pause here and then change it back to 0.3. Okay, so now that we have the timing of our frames done, let's hit save. Okay, so let's use the slider and go all the way back to frame 1. Actually, we're going to go to frame 2. Okay, I'm going to teach you something else about how we can manipulate the actual clip art. Now, we can't do anything with the clip art in terms of, let's say, separating the wings from the body or putting in another antenna or adding another wing. We just can't do that because the clip art is set. But we can manipulate the clip art to a degree. So I want you to click on your butterfly. And then from the right tool panel, where it says Tools here, I want you to look for this button. This is called the Skew tool, Skew. So click on Skew. First of all, before you click on Skew, you notice how the boxes around the clip art are blue. But now, if I click on the Skew tool, the boxes turn orange. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to click on one of these side boxes and I want you to push the butterfly clip art in. So what you're doing is you're making the butterfly slightly skinnier, just slightly. Then I want you to click on the top skew point and pull it to the right so that it looks like the butterfly is leaning forward. Okay. Now from the toolbar, you're going to click on the next frame. From the timeline, sorry, you're going to click on the next frame. And then you're going to click on the next frame. Okay, so what we did was we skipped a frame and then we went to the next frame. Let's click on the butterfly again. Let's click on the Skew tool from the right tool panel. First thing we want to do, we want to push in from the side button to make it slightly skinnier. Then from the top point, I want you to skew it backwards so that it looks like it's leaning backwards. So this is how we're going to create an effect that it looks like the butterfly is moving its wings, although it's not. Okay, so from the timeline, click on the next frame, which we're going to skip, and then click on the next frame. So there's a pattern here. All right, click on the butterfly, click on the Skew tool. First thing we want to do is we want to push it in from the side and make it slightly skinnier. Then from the top skew point, pull forward. So you see it's a pattern here. We pull forward and then we skip. And then the next frame we pull back and then we skip. And then the next frame we pull forward and then we skip. All right, so let's deselect. Let's click on the next frame. This is the one where we don't do anything. We skip and then click on the next frame. Click on the butterfly, click on the Skew tool, move it in, push it in from the side, make it skinny, and then now I'm on the one where I skew backwards. Okay, click on the next frame, which we're going to skip. We're going to leave it as it is. Then click on the next frame. Click on the butterfly, click on the Skew tool, make it skinny, then pull it to so that it's leaning forward. All right. The next frame I'm going to skip. I'm not going to do anything. And then the next frame, click, skew, pull in, and then lean back. So this is where you really have to concentrate because you have to keep track of where you are in that pattern. All right, click on the next frame, which we're going to skip. Click on the next frame. Now for me, it just so happens that the next frame is where the butterfly changed direction. It flipped horizontally. So I'm actually going to leave this frame. I'm going to skip this frame as well. And I'm going to start the pattern on the next frame. So I'm going to click, hit skew, pull it in from the side, and then have it lean forward. Okay, I'm going to continue the pattern. I may have to use the slider at the bottom of the timeline to move through the animation. All right, so the next frame I'm going to skip. Click on the next frame, skew. Okay, next frame I'm going to skip. Now the next frame is where I flipped it in and I changed directions again. So I can leave this frame and I can go to the next frame. Okay, and then start your pattern all over again. Make sure you skip one in between. So what this does is, if you skip one in between, it creates 3 different positions of the butterfly. We have the lean forward position, we have the normal position, and then we have the lean back position. Again, as you get to the end of your frames, click on the slider and continue pulling the slider to the right. I can actually see the end now. Just take your time. Go slowly. You don't have to rush. Follow that same pattern. Lean forward and then skip one. And then lean back and then skip one. Now as the butterfly, now I'm getting towards the edge of the screen, so it's not as important to do that skew pattern. It might not even let you on, it will. But because we can't see all of the butterfly, the skew pattern is almost wasted. So for the last couple frames, just leave them in their normal position. Okay, so if I've gotten too far ahead of you, you can press pause and you can catch up to me. Okay, so let's see what we've done. So let's use the slider and go all the way back to the beginning. Let's hit save. Let's click on frame 1, sorry, and then let's hit play. Now you see how that butterfly is, that leaning forward and leaning back makes it look like the wings are flapping. We know that they're not, but that subtle movement gives it its movement in the air. Okay, so let's hit save again. This concludes this Frames 5 video tutorial on Butterfly Part 2. Please continue on with the next tutorial without calling Mr. Ueda over. Thanks for watching. Bye.